Change is a coming, oh yeah. Change is a coming, oh yeah. Change is a coming, change is a coming, change is a coming, oh yeah. Hi, I am Matthew Armstead, and I am excited to share with you a bit more about radical faithfulness in action. I'm the lead facilitator for this program, and I want to let you into a bit more of what are we up to in radical faithfulness. And I want to start with a belief we carry that when we're doing change work and we're on our path, every once in a while, chaos is going to come. And the question is, how do we deal with it? Because it's a part of it. And personally, I got challenged with that question when I came back from Ferguson in 2014. I started sharing stories about the responses to Michael Brown's murder and the protests that had emerged and the police presence that had shown up and the military presence that had shown up and the politicians that had shown up and the media that had shown up and the chaos that had emerged. And friends and mentors and fellow organizers said, thank you for sharing these stories because we know chaos is going to increase globally. As systems start to change, as climate changes, as things in our world start to shift. And so this program is designed to support you in making change in our world in a time where chaos is increasing. And so I want to share a bit about what that means. What does chaos mean? And for us, we're thinking about chaos on a couple levels. Let me just click here. Great. And so one way that we think about chaos is in protests and dealing with police and government and systems that want things to be a certain way, and we are up to challenging those. And as we challenge them, there is repression in ways that we don't expect sometimes. Another way we're dealing with chaos is when our neighbors are being kidnapped by ICE and our communities are trying to respond to these emergent needs that show up, especially because they don't always work on the timetable that we would like. Rarely do ICE agents show up between 9 to 5 at the perfect time. Instead, they kidnap people at 5 in the morning. And so how are communities responding? And we're also thinking about chaos in terms of the climate and what happens when we are fighting for climate change and then environmental crises happen. And then we're also thinking about chaos when we're doing our change work and we're making our plans and then things don't go as we expect. How do we stay present in that? And all four of these pictures come from experiences that people had in movements as they've come to this program. These are questions that people have been asking. And how we deal with that first is by saying, let's get grounded. And so when you come to Pendle Hill, we are focused on getting you grounded with the land, with the earth, using practices that put you in relationship to a place, to remind you to be connected with a place when you return home. Even if you're one who travels, helping you build skills to be grounded. When we're at Pendle Hill, we're eating food that comes from the earth, an old practice. We're eating food from this place and from nearby to really nourish us from where we are. And then we'll also have community who will be holding us. You'll have a cohort who you'll go through this journey with. You'll have the same faculty because we want to hold you consistently as a community. And the larger Pendle Hill community is also holding you in this. I'm surprised how often participants say, I felt so held by the people who are helping make this happen. And then we're going to do some skill building, help teach you some new skills for grounding when you're in very chaotic moments or when you're in calm moments. Grounding that'll help bring your energy up, calm you down, get you in sync with what's around you. And we're going to invite in those grounding practices that you already have, so that you can share them with others and be reminded of the wisdom that you already have going on. Because then once we're grounded, then we can start to watch and learn from chaos. Because when you're faced with it, we want you to be able to see it and make some choices, increasing your options to deal with chaos. Because when you have options, then suddenly you can just be with chaos and recognize it as a part of our world. So when you see it, it doesn't throw you into full panic. Instead, you have a relationship with it. Because when you have a relationship with it, you can also ride it. You can follow the wave of chaos, feel where it's moving. And when you follow it, sometimes you have unexpected options for how you can move. And then we also want you to do what people making change have done for years, which is harness the power of chaos and be able to move it, to create it. So many protests are trying to aim for a target and say, how can we create a little more chaos in their life so they can see what they have been denying for years? And so we want you to be able to better harness the power of chaos as you're approaching things, knowing that it may only happen one step at a time. And I want to pause and be honest with you and say that when you're dealing with chaos, it's not always pretty. It's not always easy. And we often go into our trauma responses of fight, flight, freeze, or collapse. And so we want you to get to know what are your trauma responses, because they're going to come up. And we believe you have a way to deal with chaos. You've done it before. Everyone has had an experience, if you're at this part in your life, of chaos. I remember my beginning of nursery school way, way, way back. And when I was in nursery school, I got there and I freaked out. My parents were gone. My mom wasn't there. I didn't know what I was going to do. Who are all these strangers? I'm one of the only brown kids. And my response was fight. I was that kid who shoved a kid and shoved another kid and shoved another kid, because I thought maybe that'll help this moment. And so we want you to start to figure out what is your relationship with the trauma, and then tend to your healing. Because we all have some pain when we come to this. And so we want to give you some space to tend to your own healing and some skills to keep tending to your own responses to trauma when they show up. And then once you're there, once you're in that mix, then we can plan some exciting actions together. And when we think about actions in this program, we are thinking about things that will affect the change you want to have in the world. And we start with ourselves, because there's going to be some actions you want to do to shift things internally so that you are more able to deal with the chaos. I'm thinking about an organizer who was dealing with gentrification and how she had to figure out how to grieve that if she ended her campaign, she might lose a community of friends who've come together for it. But once she grieved, then she was more able to say, oh, actually, we can win. We can finish this arc of the campaign, because not all these relationships are going to end. Some of them will stay and some of them will leave. And then we're also going to invite you to think about taking action in your groups, because everyone who's coming to this program is expected to have a community of people they're working with. This isn't for solo actors. It's for people who make change among others, because we believe people power is a thing. And so we're going to look at what are the actions you need to take to help your group shift its relationship to chaos, to actually be able to plan actions in the world in your groups that help you be with, ride with, and harness the power of chaos. And then we're also going to invite you to think about the societal level of action, because we're in a world where chaos is increasing. The climate is changing, migration is increasing, political parties and institutions are collapsing, and we're not quite sure what's coming. And so that means we're in relationship with chaos as a society, which affects us every day. And so we want to invite you to think about what is your relationship to the chaos in our world, and how can you take actions to be grounded and move forward in the midst of that. And so what we do in this program is myself, my co-facilitator, Irva Baden, and our apprentice assistant, Lena Blunt from Pendle Hill, we're going to work together to accompany you on a journey for these months. As you're dealing with chaos in your everyday life, as you're trying to make change, we're going to be with you, helping you strategize, helping listen to you along the way. And then we're also going to help you build some skills so that when you're not with us, you feel more equipped to deal with what you have going on. And then we will consistently take time for your healing. So sometimes that's in song, oh yeah. And sometimes that's in stories, oh yeah. And sometimes it's unexpected, but the time will come for you to get your healing. Oh, yeah. So I welcome you to apply to radical faithfulness, because the missing piece in this story right now is spirit, what the Quakers call spirit. We're at a Quaker retreat center. What some people call God, what some people call the great whatever. People of different faith traditions and no faith tradition are invited here, because we believe that when you know where you come from and what your faith is, and you step out radically on faith, then you can be in relationship with chaos. So bring your faith journey, bring your change visions, and bring your full self to this program. Apply today. I look forward to hearing from you.